Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Office 365 Pulse. We have the whole gang back together this week with Adam, Tom, and I, and we're going to go through the updates. We have a ton of updates this week, so we're probably going to keep the commentary and the joking back and forth. Well, we'll probably still do that because that's just what we do.
It's just, that's
But
normal.
we're going to try to run through all of it and give you guys an update just as quick as we can. So I think the first one, I'm going to toss it right over to Tom. It was when he was excited about around Outlook.com.
Yeah, Outlook.com beta includes calendar and people. So I went out there and took a look at the Outlook version for the web, and the calendar is looking really slick. I like the clean UI that they've got. It's not dramatically different from what you see out there as the normal one, but it is really clean. I like where they're going with it and the look and feel. So that's really cool.
Awesome.
I'll also touch on the next one too, since I'm
beautiful.
talking. Insights in Excel. Insights provide value to a range of users, provide a softer approach to data analysis, and for others it provides a different perspective to your data. Again, I think that's really important that they're making Excel more usable in terms of data analysis for people who don't have that as their primary job description. So I think that's a really cool change coming up.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, how about Outlook for Windows showing URL and safe links? Why don't you take that one, Adam, and tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure, I think this is great, and this is if you have ATP and you have safe links. Up until now, the URLs would basically replace with a protection.office.something URL. Users would click on it, and that's the whole experience. What I love about this, I've done a lot of communications for organizations and helped them prepare for rollouts. This is basically the one thing you had to educate your users on. Hey, there's a link in here. It's going to look different. It's okay. That's intentional. This is why it's okay. This is what's working. Now I really feel like companies can basically roll out safe links without having to communicate with their users, because the difference is just going to be they're protected on the back end. So that alone I think is awesome. All this really is a visual change that's going to make what's happening behind the scenes less exposed to your users, which I think is a great thing. And again, I think users can basically, organizations can buy it, click it on, and it can be working without them even having to plan a rollout to the users, which is wonderful.
Yeah, the fact that you can hover over it and see where you're going to go instead of seeing this humongous URL that you really can't tell and you think you have to click on it to figure it out, that could be too late for phishing stuff. So, good change.
Yeah, that's an awesome change. All right, Tom, why don't you talk to us about this bill payment?
This is one of those things that's like, I don't know who came up with this, but this is kind of cool in the fact that Outlook will be able to create events in your calendar with payment due dates for things like credit cards, flights, stuff like that. I'm like, wow, okay. It also means that you'll probably end up using Outlook for more than just work stuff, but again, kind of a cool feature. And if it's something that is normal for you, especially probably like if you're a consultant doing a lot of travel and stuff, this could be a really cool change.
Right. And I guess we should mention that everything that we've talked about so far has made it into that launch phase. So I believe everything is launched. Some of them might be rolling out, but I think, nope, everything we've talked about so far has made it in that launch phase, which means it should be in your tenants now inside of Office 365. The next one is Outlook for Windows Conference Room Finder improvement, and that's going to be really cool because it's going to let you see like recent conference rooms and how busy they are. And if I know anything about I work from home now, so my conference room is my office. As you see here, I'm always in it. But when I was working in the office, finding an office space was a little bit crazy, and I always use the same 4 or 5 offices. So I think that that's really cool for the conference room stuff, trying to make that a little bit easier. So some of those new improvements have launched as well. Ooh, and then Tom, I'm so excited about this next one.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You really want this one.
Yeah, Outlook for Windows, we're going to be able to automatically set like reminders to dismiss calendar events that happened in the past. So when you open Outlook, you don't get this big long thing of your, hey, here are all your event reminders that happened over the last 2 days.
You come back from vacation.
Because it's absolutely, like, I always ignore it. And so therefore I miss future meetings because like it's just noise. So I was super excited when I saw that one. So that one should be coming soon. Well, it should be there, and now it should be able to help us all.
It's probably worth noting, too, you guys will see a lot of this. There have been so many updates for Outlook for Windows, Outlook for the iPhone, and Outlook for Android. We're going to be hitting on some of our favorites and highlighting them, but it's safe to say they're putting a lot of investment in redeveloping and reorganizing the feel, especially on the mobile clients. So, again, we're going to highlight some of the ones that are particularly impactful to us that we think you guys would like to know about. But if you want a full list, you can always go and check out the roadmap. We can kind of help share and expose that to you guys, but it's safe to say there's a ton of love going that way right now.
Yeah, and I'd say from the mobile app, so I have some experience with this last night. I was telling the guys that I was working on my phone, and then I turned and had a conversation with Corey, and then I looked back at my phone, and my Outlook was totally different, and it had done an update. So the logo changes to the new Outlook logo, so it was very visually different, but I've been using the app all day, haven't even really paid attention to what the new features are, but I really haven't missed a beat in terms of major changes or anything like that. So while a lot of things have rolled out, I don't think you really have to worry too much about it being such a jolting experience. The biggest thing will be the icon, because it goes from being that solid blue to now being a white background with the blue Outlook in the logo. So it's very visually like, oh, that's different.
Something's changed.
Yeah. But a little assurance that it's not too crazy of changes, at least on the iOS. So, Tom, I think you had the next one.
Yeah, they now have an option to change the default end time for meetings and appointments, which I think is kind of cool because they mention reducing the meeting time can give attendees schedule time to get to their next meeting. For somebody who considers himself late if he's on time, especially if I was working in a building, not working remote, I would have a really hard time getting out of the meeting at 10 a.m. and having to be in my next meeting somewhere at 10 a.m. So I like the fact that they're giving you some options now to make it less than an hour, so that's good.
This rings so true to me. At my old job, I worked in an old mall that had 6,000 people that worked there, and literally you could have a 10-minute gap, and it will take longer than 10 minutes for you to walk to your other meeting. And so all the time you'd have meetings that went back to back, and had to be like, cool, I'm either abandoning my first meeting early or getting to my other meeting late, or both, and that's just part of the behavior. So the fact that they're going to do stuff like this, that you can make it a little bit more nice for organizations like that, especially for the bigger organizations that have big spread out offices, really cool.
Yep. Totally.
Hey, Adam, did you want to hit the data governance data plan builder?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, as you guys can probably already tell, we have a lot to go over today. But basically, they announced that they're going to be having what they're calling an Office 365 Data Governance File Plan Builder. What this basically comes down to is it's a tool that they're giving you that's going to allow you to set a hierarchy for departments, locations, categories, things like that around records retention. And what this is really doing for me, for the mom and pop shops out there, not even the mom and pop shops, a lot of the clients that I work with, they do, 50, 75 employees, but they have, one or two IT guys that have to do literally everything IT related. They are not inherently governance people, or they are not inherently legal people. I feel like this is giving easy to use tool sets to allow you to kind of wear those many hats to fill many roles, but make it easier for you. I don't see this being necessarily that useful to the 60,000 person organization that's going to have multiple roles and lawyers overseeing that process. But if you're out there and you're managing your organization's system and you're a one man or one woman shop, I think this is just another tool that's going to make doing governance and creating a governance plan a little bit easier, which is just, it's nice to see them give some love towards that direction.
Very cool.
Yes, definitely. Well, cool. I'll hit the next one, and that's going to be Windows accessibility improvements. And so this one is really important we have such a diverse workforce and people being able to get the tools that they need. And so inside of Windows, there's going to be some extra features that are going to allow you to make everything bigger. There's going to be some features that allow your mouse to stay centered so you can easily see it. But what I really like about this is they're providing a quick start. And so a narrator can come in and basically go through the 13-page document that highlights all of these features for you. Because, there's like 2 million features inside of Word. It's going to be hard to know, or I'm sorry, not in Word, inside of Windows. So it's going to be hard to know what are all the new features and what are the changes. And so they're actually making it very easy for us to know what those changes are. So if you have some accessibility needs or curious what's there, there's going to be some great tools that we can put into the hands of our users to kind of educate them on what's coming, to give them a greater working experience and environment there. And then the next one I'm going to hit on just because I think it's funny. All right. When I was going through the roadmap, this was not one I expected to see, but we have launched Notepad improvements because Notepad is everyone's favorite tool. I mean, let's be honest, I work a lot with developers, admins, architects, stuff like that, and whenever I'm, working over their shoulder or seeing something that they're doing, they all have Notepad open.
I have Notepad open right now.
So I think it's fantastic. You're going to get some extra features around zooming, around word wrapping. Let's see what else was in there. Did you get
column and line numbers?
Yeah, and then control minus, control expand, and so I think it's just great. Great, we're giving that tool some love. I mean, if you're on the Notepad team, you gotta feel like not very loved. I mean, but yeah, so Notepad was in the roadmap this week. So how about that?
It's one 60-year-old woman by herself in a closet working on new development.
Oh. That's fantastic. But those features will probably get used quite a bit. So I thought that one was really great. But now I'm going to pass it to Tom to another one that's kind of fun.
Yeah, because this is the other 60-year-old woman that's probably sitting there doing development, and that is to have a new clipboard experience, which is really cool because everybody's like, well, I want to, clip more than one thing at a time, or I want to be able to go get what I clipped 2 copies ago. So it says users can paste from the clipboard history and pin frequently used item. History roams with you, so you can access the clipboard across any PC. Those are really cool usability things. So really looking forward to that, hitting the tenant and hitting the updates for Windows 10. I think that's going to be really cool.
I mean, yeah, 2 things I didn't expect. We have clipboard updates this week and Notepad, and those are probably 2 that I am really the most excited about. Like the clipboard one, I will be using this all of the time. So
I bet next week we get Solitaire updates.
Windows Pinball.
Minesweeper, there we go.
No, I think it's fantastic.
I'll go ahead and mention one of the next ones. It's important too. Most of everything that we've talked about here has been stuff that they're actually launched, as we kind of mentioned up until now. This is the first one we're getting to that hasn't officially launched, but it is in a rolling out stage. So again, we talk about this fairly often. This means it's starting to go to first release and people are going to start to see it. But if you don't have it, don't worry, it's coming. And again, this falls in the line of one of the many things that are coming for the mobile applications. But I think this one is great. I'm sure Tom and Jen also feel this way. They're basically improving the calendar search functionality. So one of the biggest complaints I got from people who work off of their phone a lot is searching, and that now has gotten better searching through the inbox, but going and searching through the calendar really has not been the greatest experience. So they're bringing a much more robust search functionality where you'll be able to go through and search for users and find past events and things like that. So again, some more love. This is coming to both Outlook and Android, and again, rolling out. Happy to see, and this is one of many iOS and mobile applications we'll be talking about, or updates we'll be talking about today.
I'll hit the next one, SharePoint Pages section background colorings. And this is in a launch state. So when you have your different page sections out there, instead of being stuck with the default white, which isn't bad, you'll now be able to do some different background colorings, which I think is really good because it can kind of give your page some sense of, here's a section, instead of just having, this endless scroll of data. So I've played with it a little bit. I like what it has. I would hope that they do some more colors on there because it was like you had 2 or 3 options and that was really it. But I think that's a really good change. Looking forward to using that one on a regular basis.
Yeah, and the next one is another SharePoint update. This is reached that launch phase, so it should be available. And this is going to be SharePoint in Teams, SharePoint web parts as tabs inside of Teams. So this is just another step in making it so that we can work from any location. And so you're going to be able to take SharePoint web part, use it as a tab inside of Teams. This is going to be especially powerful for those building web parts off the SharePoint framework and trying to build that customized business data and making it available to folks. So I'm really excited to see that that's out there. That's one of the many changes that they have coming in that direction now. So let's see the next one. I believe the next one is Adam. Let me go down the list here. Yes. So
yeah,
Azure.
it's that Azure-y stuff.
That Azure AD signing. Give us the scoop, Adam.
Sure. So we won't go too nerdy technical here, but if you guys are currently using Azure AD, specifically if you're currently using Azure AD Connect or you're using ADFS, this will make sense to you. Right now, when users go in to sign into Office 365 or really any of the Azure services, once you put in your username, it actually does some processing on the back end. So once you put in your username and you tab down, if you're a federated domain, that's when it will realize, hey, this login's actually somewhere else, and redirect you to your ADFS login portal. We're actually doing some updates around that authentication redirect process, and what really made me excited about this is not so much that they're just changing that, because what they're doing is they're updating what it looks like to an end user, making it a little bit more visually appealing, a little bit more in line with what you're used to seeing in Azure AD. But the part that I thought was really impactful here is that they specifically say the new behavior will pave the path forward to a passwordless future by enabling alternative credentials like FIDO2. I think this is really, really the key point here. This shows you a little bit of insight into where Microsoft is going for the end game. What they're doing right now is technical updates to the back-end architecture of how they're doing authentication to enable newer and more secure technology sets that will make it so when users go through and go in to enter in their domain, rather than just simply redirecting to another authentication point, they're going to have options to potentially even redirect and realize, hey, we know who you are because of this protocol that you have in place. We can identify who you are by your computer and actually get you through without users having to enter in their password, which is awesome when you think about the implications of what that can be for accessibility, for ease of use for end users, stuff like that. So all that's changing, and again, it's rolling out right now, is that you're going to see a different visual redirect login page soon. But what this means potentially for the future is actually really telling and really, really cool. And the security nerds out there with me will probably get excited by the possibilities of sort of seeing them moving in that type of direction.
Awesome. All right, Tom, how about you tell us about iOS, Outlook, and Office Lens?
Office Lens is one of those things that not too many people probably know about, but it's a really cool application for your mobile device. But what it does is it allows you to take pictures of documents, whiteboards, whatever, and it will basically go out there and find the edges of the document and turn it into something that actually looks like a PDF or looks like a picture or things like that, even if you're at an angle or stuff like that. They're now doing more Office Lens integration with Outlook, which I think is awesome because that just means you can be in Outlook, you can get your receipts, you can take the picture of it, and boom, it's there in Outlook. You've got it, looking like a receipt, not a receipt in your desk underneath it, stuff like that. I think that's a really cool addition there. So I'm looking forward to that one.
The most common thing I get asked whenever I talk about Office Lens too is, well, how is this different from just taking a picture? Tom kind of hit, you can do it from different angles and things like that. To me, the most powerful thing about Office Lens, it actually is integrated with OCR, which is basically text recognition. So if you're going through and you're taking a picture of notes, you're taking a picture of receipts, once it processes that information with Office Lens, you'll then be able to do searches in your email, in your OneDrive, and the content in the picture becomes searchable. So if I go and take notes on something like an Azure AD security deployment, and I go in and search for the word security, it'll be able to recognize that's what the notes were about. And I think that is what really makes it powerful, and because of that, I love to see it coming as the default soon to stuff like the Outlook iOS app, because that just makes it so much more cool and more powerful from a metadata standpoint moving forward.
Yep.
Totally. Well, cool. The next one is something that is launched recently inside of Office Online, and that's where you're going to get the simplified ribbon. And it's going to be a little bit around collaboration and content. And so what they mean by simplified is it's going to look different and highlight and push you to different things. I'm actually really pleased with this for Office Online because I have noticed with it I'm jumping into the client a little less now. And usually from my own experiences, I usually stay in Office Online just until I need to do something that I can't quickly do or I don't quickly see what it is, and then I hit open in client, it opens, and then I'm used to it. I'm rocking and rolling. And I have noticed that since this has come out, I'm a little less quick to go into the client, which has been nice. I still go into the client when I'm doing heavy duty lifting and stuff like that, but it's been a nice refreshing change. So users will notice differences in the UI. So that will be one that you might get some help desk questions or something like that. So you should be aware of and be prepared for that one. All right. Let's see. I think we're reaching kind of a little bit towards the end. Ooh, how about this one, Tom? This one's a good
yes.
one.
We're about to go to the SharePoint stronghold, guys.
Yeah.
Yes. Personalized web parts for SharePoint. So these are really cool in my estimation in the fact that you can now use these personalized web parts on pages, and so when somebody goes to a page, they're going to see content based on who they are, what their recent documents are, the news that's tailored to them, and you don't have to build this experience trying to make it generic enough to where everybody gets some benefit. It's kind of like using the SharePoint views where you say the bracket me, and everybody sees their own stuff in the view, but all you've got is one view out there. This is the same concept, only with web parts, and I think that's going to make for some really interesting pages that you can build that make people feel that the content is specific to them. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right, the next one we have is @mentions in Office, Office Online. So that's when you can be in a document and you want to send someone an email notification or alert or mentioning them or something along those lines. So if I'm typing, I can be like @Adam, and it's going to pull him in and send him a notification. So that's already been in some of the tools that we have. We use it a lot. I'm seeing my teams use it a lot right now in Outlook. So super excited to see that in Office Online as well. And that should be out completely. And then I think, Adam, is the next one yours?
I think we're in SharePoint world now.
Yeah, we're still in SharePoint
world. Tom, I'll toss that one to you since I did the last one.
Yeah, SharePoint sites. View and apply site designs from within the site. This is something that I need to dig into because, especially being that we're starting to do migration from SharePoint 2010, it says they're providing a new site setting to view any applied site designs and apply additional ones from within the site. I know we've been really gun-shy to not want to have a ton of customized templates out there, as in any. So I need to figure out exactly what we're talking about. I know that recently I had seen where you could start to create customized site pages and stuff like that that you could then store out there that people could use if you had a really cool design that you wanted to make available to everybody. I'm thinking it's tying into that, but again, I want to check and see exactly how this is going to work itself out here.
Yeah, and this is a safe one. I mean, you have to be an administrator or site owner to go in and do it. So they've done a really good job of keeping that safe. And then with the site designs, I think you're going to see a lot more coming out with site designs, and they really are the future of a lot of things. In fact, Adam and I were just recently talking about them in an internal governance meeting that we had of making these available and then kicking them off and different things like that. And so I'm really excited to see this as kind of like one of those first pushes towards it. So I think we're going to see so much more coming with site designs in the future. And that's cool. We'll give the plug for the SharePoint conference in May. Be there in Vegas because we're probably going to hear a ton of stuff. We'll have a heck of a follow-up to do after that week. But that's kind of exciting there. The next SharePoint one is I'm excited about. It's fully launched. It's on Modern Pages. You now have more title options. So when Modern Pages first came out, where it has the title, you get the image across the top, and you get the title, but you can't really do much with it. Well, now you have 3 or 4 different options for shrinking. No title, or title only, or title in the middle, or different things like that. So you get to configure the pages a little bit differently, which will help you really get that impact you need on your pages. And so that's launched now, and I really have enjoyed those features when I've had them. So, next is you, Adam. It is SharePoint, but it's admin. So tell us about the admin center.
Yeah. So this is a part of SharePoint that resonates with me, that needing to manage it from the crazy SharePoint admins like Jen and Tom here. All that's really coming out here is twofold. One, the modern SharePoint admin experience with, if you've been working in Office 365 admin, you've had the ability to toggle on for a bit. That is going to be going to the default now. So when you go to the admin experience, rather than being in the classic and needing to toggle to the new, it's going to be the reverse. You're going to be in the new experience but need to toggle to the old if you want to. And then in addition to that, they're also going through the process of rolling this out to tenants with less than 50 seats is what you'll see. So basically you have the ability to switch back and forth. They kind of dictated where you're going to go see this rolling out, but the only real change is it's just reversing. You're now going to default into the new experience and have the option to go into the old. Good things all around. I'm always for them going through and updating the UI as long as it's done in a intelligent way. And this is a part of SharePoint I work in a lot, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Well, super awesome. Well, actually, I just looked at the rest of the list. I think the next 2 we're going to pass to Adam. We'll give the final one to Tom, and then I'll close us out.
Yeah, so trying to go through and be here quick. Tom and I were joking about this one before we started. We thought this was really funny. It's prioritization of user investigation, and this is launched. What this basically means is I saw this as like a giant red warning siren. If you have users who can be particularly damaging or are particularly of note at risk, they've either done a whole bunch of, kind of sketchy things recently, or they're a global admin and something's going on you're unsure about. This is basically a way to prioritize reporting that information to you as an admin. So basically it will be an overview of users who pose a greatest risk to your organization. And we were just laughing. When I read this, I saw this as like a giant warning siren. It's like, oh man, Sarah in HR is going off again. Something's bad. She's probably compromised. We just thought it was funny and both cool that they're basically giving you tools that not only go through the normal alerting, but almost this is like a, hey, this is really a red flag. You really need to get on this more so than the other smaller red flags you have going on. So it's cool to see.
I love these because true life story. This week I was having a OneDrive syncing issue, and so I thought I went through the process and fixed the OneDrive correctly. I thought I had everything fixed, and about 5 minutes after I do it, I get a call from our internal admin, and he's like, "So Jen, are you meaning to delete hundreds of files?" Absolutely not. I am absolutely not meaning to do that. And so we were able to go in and fix it. So I was excited for 2 things. One, there was a big event with the team whose files I deleted, and 2, we were able to go get them right back. So I got them back. No one noticed they were gone, but I was very thankful for these alerts with suspicious activities because I don't typically delete several hundred files at one time. But
Jen is a high-risk user.
Yeah, she's going to be at the top of the list for a couple weeks now.
So I'm gonna be priority on that list. But I thought it was super great. So real world, there's just a real world example of how that might work. And at the end of the day, my OneDrive issue got fixed. So I guess all's well. And I put the files back. No one's noticed yet.
The next thing's real easy. We'll do this real quick. I'm more interested in what this shows and what the necessary updates are. Basically, they announced 2 new roles that they're rolling out as permissions that you can go through and set through Azure AD. What's important to me here is not so much the role specifically. It's an AIP administrator role and a privileged role itself. But what I like around here is you can see additional RBAC, which is role-based access controls, being developed. As a whole, RBAC permissions are much better than the classic, you're a god in Exchange, you're a god in SharePoint, can do whatever you want. It's much more targeted where you're going around the specific roles with the specific processes that people are doing and building out permissions custom to their job role rather than you can do whatever you want. It's a much, much better way to do permissions as a whole inside of your organization. So I'm completely behind them continuing any additional when they say, hey, there's something someone's doing that, we don't have a specific role for, we don't have a specific assignment we can do. So rather than making them build custom ones or go out and do 3 or 4 of them together, here's a new role coming out. So again, not so much about what the roles are, but I love seeing this development because again, if you're not doing RBAC-based permissions inside of Azure AD, you definitely should be. It'll make your organization more secure, more safe, and love to see the continued development from a security perspective from Microsoft there.
Cool. And the very last one on the list, thank you for hanging in with us, everybody. SharePoint, slow performance banner updates. Easy for somebody else to say. So if SharePoint Online detects that structural navigation, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but apparently that has a tendency to cause pages to load slowly, what they're now going to be doing is showing banners to the person saying, slow performance detected, your site's using this structural navigation, click here to learn more about how to improve that. Again, I think the fact that they're able to see that you're doing something that may not be in your best interest in terms of having great performance in your site is a really good move, and especially if you've got a lot of users and you've got a small SharePoint team. I prefer them coming to me going, hey, I see that we got this message there. What does this mean? And then I know I can step in and do something at that point. So I really like that rather than just people going, SharePoint sucks, it's slow. I like the fact it's actually telling you, yeah, it's slow because you did this.
So this is going to be important to you, Tom, so you know. So structural navigation was developed for on-prem SharePoint when you had a set topology that you built with what your structure was. And so that is how traditional navigation worked in SharePoint on-prem. When you go to SharePoint Online and it's tons of servers that are in farms, that's a very inefficient way to try to navigate through because your content might be spread over 30 servers rather than 2. But a lot of people who are coming from on-prem still have that navigation search option enabled and haven't gone to typically to do managed navigation when you go into SharePoint Online. So one of the things this is basically doing is politely telling people the reason this is running slow is not because SharePoint Online is bad, it's because the settings that you typically brought over with you from your traditional system is limiting the performance here. So what this is really doing is a polite way of telling people you can do this more efficiently. And I think this is classic Microsoft that they're putting this warning out to end users so they will go and complain to the admins, so the admins will be forced to take action and go and fix the navigation options on the back end. But with you coming with a migration coming up, this is something you'll actually probably see.
It's not me. Or it's not me, it's you. That's
yes.
the
Oh, love it.
Oh, that is so fun. All right, guys, this has been another great show. A ton of updates this week. We kind of went through a couple of weeks where we're like, what are we going to talk about for 30 minutes? And now we're like, well, we have to pick our highlights so we can get it all in. So it's exciting.
And we skipped like 15 mobile updates, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's exciting to see. We skipped over bookings. That was another one. So Microsoft Bookings is really a small business offering where you can go in and let's say you had a nail salon, you had hair appointments, you had accounting, and you're letting people make bookings with you. There were probably 20 different roadmap entries this week about changes coming to bookings, and a lot of it is around usability and extra features there. So that was one that we skipped over. Also, we skipped over a lot about some of the Android features for Outlook. So Outlook, Android, Outlook iOS, all so many features in there. So definitely check out the roadmap if you're interested in some of those items. And we will be back next week with another set of updates. Thanks, everybody.